Hey, what's up? Hello. If you're new here, my name is Kayla and you are watching Kayla's Bookish Vibes. Today's video is going to be a tag video. So I believe it's called the Midyear Freakout Book Tag, or just like the Midyear Book Tag. I remember watching this video when I was just like a consumer of booktube. I wasn't really making any content on it, and this was one of my favorite videos to watch. I started my channel at the beginning of this year, and we are already 6 months into the year, halfway through 2024. So I thought this is the perfect time, and really the only time, to do this tag. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at my phone because that's where I have all the prompts written down, and it's honestly just a series of 13 questions that you answer. So the first question is the best book that you've read so far in 2024. For me, that is hands down The Reformatory by Nana Reid. This is the best book that I have read so far this year. I want to say this was my very first book that I read, and it has been really my only 5-star, I think. I think I had one other 5-star, but this is like the first and only true 5-star in every sense of the word. In this book, we are following a brother and his sister walking to school and work one day when they encounter someone who starts to like make advances towards the older sister. In response, the younger brother kicks him in the knee, and he ends up being sent to the reformatory school because of this. Now, this takes place in the 1950s in Florida, and the school that he goes to isn't an actual school. It's a prison pretty much for boys. And this book does reference, or it's written inspired by the actual school for boys, the Dozier School for Boys that's located in Florida, or that was located in Florida until recently. This book is heartbreaking, guys. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I cried during this book. But it's so beautifully written, and this is my first book that I had ever read by Nana Reid. I can't wait to get into more of her books. But yeah, this is the best book that I have read so far in 2024. Question number 2 is the best sequel that you've read so far. I don't even know if I've read any sequels this year. I want to say the only sequel, and I don't even know if you can really consider it a sequel, is by Sadiqa Johnson. It's called Fallen Grace, and it's like a novella. It's like a little novella that I read on my Kindle. If you are familiar with The House of Eve by Sadiqa Johnson, there's a very specific scene in this book where we meet someone named Bubbles, and we don't really get to know a lot of Bubbles' story. But the sequel, or the novella that I read, called Fallen Grace by Sadiqa Johnson, I'll put a picture of it here. This is a continuation of Bubbles' story. And I really enjoyed that sequel. I enjoyed the little sneak peek that we got into how things ended up for her. But that's really the only sequel that I read. And I don't even know if you can really consider it a sequel, which tells me I'm not completing series. And I really need to start doing better at that. Number 3, new releases you haven't read yet, but you really want to. There's so many. I have so many on my shelf that I really want to read that I haven't yet. We can literally start with this book stack right here. The first being The Dangerous Ones. This is a historical fantasy that includes vampires. I really want to read this one. Escaping Mr. Rochester. This is also a historical fantasy, and I'm really excited about this one. And lastly, The Blueprint by Ray Gianna Rashad. This is like a historical sci-fi, so I really want to get into this one as well. There are so many other new releases on my shelf that I really want to get to that I just haven't yet, and I don't know what it is. Number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So obviously this book hasn't come out yet, but I'm really excited to read the second Davenport's book. This book is called More Than This. It's called More Than This. It's the second book in the Davenport series. This book is written by Crystal Marquis. I really enjoyed this book, and I believe the second book comes out sometime in November. So that is probably my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So number 5 says your biggest disappointment. My biggest disappointment this year. Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say Womb City is my biggest disappointment. This is a sci-fi, a horror sci-fi, and I just didn't really gel well with the writing style. I thought it was very repetitive. This involves body hopping, and I just felt like the author explained way too many times how body hopping worked and who body hopping worked for and who it didn't work for. The horror aspects were honestly just like really gory fighting scenes, and it wasn't really anything truly horrific about this book. And I just thought we did a lot of nothing for way too long. I think the pacing of this book was just way too slow. In this book, we're following a famous architect, and takes place in futuristic Botswana. And in this book, body hopping is a thing, and she has body hopped into her present day body, where she has a microchip implanted, where her husband can kind of like see what she does with her day. I thought that the synopsis of that, or like the idea of that, was very interesting, but just the way that it was executed, I didn't find it interesting. She also really wants to have a baby, and that's a huge conflict that we follow in this book. She cannot have a baby, so they implant the embryos, I guess, into something called womb incubators, which is why the cover looks like this. The cover is stunning, and that idea is so cool, but just the way that it was executed wasn't really as cool as it sounds, I guess. So definitely my most disappointing book of 2024. Number 6 is Your Biggest Surprise. Like, I guess my most surprising book. Let's see. Let's take a look. My most surprising book. This book surprised me the most. I think this was my second 5-star of the year. When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker was probably my second most, or my first most like surprising book of the year, because it's not a book that I typically read. Romantasy is a genre that is new to me, and it's something that I'm still getting into. So if you told me this time last year that I would have read a book like this and absolutely loved it, I would have called you a liar. But I did. I love this book. In this book, we are following Rave, who is an assassin, and there are dragons in this book. It's really hard to explain what this book is about. Rave is an assassin who works for like this underground rebel community, I guess, and she gets captured. And the person who saves her is like a very unlikely person that she would think would save her. And there's dragons in this book, and the way that the dragons are used is just so poetic. I remember I just really loved the writing style of this, and I'm realizing how hard it is to truly explain what this book is about. All I know is that I absolutely loved it, and that it is available on KU. And this is definitely my most surprising book of 2024, because I truly enjoyed this book. So obviously I need to get into my romantasy bag more. And this is an adult romantasy, by the way. So if you're looking for that, I highly recommend this one. I really, really enjoyed it. Number 7 is a favorite new author. This could be a debut author or someone that is just new to you. I don't think I've necessarily discovered an author that I would now consider like my favorites, like a new favorite. I have discovered some new auto-buy authors. So these are just authors that I think whenever they come out with something new, I would automatically buy their book. And that would be Tiffany D. Jackson. I know she's not a new author, but she's new to me. I read her for the first time this year. Allegedly, I still think about this book to this day. This is a psychological thriller that's YA, and the ending of this book was just so good. And then Monday's Not Coming. This is a book that made me cry. I cried during this book. This is also it's just a very emotional thriller that's also YA. But both of these books I absolutely loved. And after I did a whole reading vlog on reading Tiffany D. Jackson for the first time, I'll leave that link down below. But after reading these books, I realized, yeah, Tiffany is an auto-buy author for me. I don't necessarily know if I would consider her like a favorite author of all time, but she's definitely an auto-buy, and I can't wait till she comes out with another book. My favorites. My newest fictional crush. I don't necessarily have a crush on any fictional characters. I haven't really read a lot of romances this year. And even if I had, I don't typically like crush or even think about the men in books after I've read romances. So I know that's not any fun, but I don't necessarily have a crush to give you. If I had to pick one though, I would say Vincent from The Kiss Countdown. I really did enjoy his character. I really wish we could have gotten his point of view in this book, which is why I think I ended up giving it 3 or 4 stars instead of like a higher ratings, because we don't get his point of view. And I was so interested in his character. He's an astronaut, for goodness sake. So I really wanted to know more about his character, and I wish we could have gotten a dual POV, but we didn't. And if I had to pick one character that was like my fictional crush, it would definitely be Vincent from this book. Prompt number 9 is your newest favorite character. I would have to say my favorite character in a book that's I read this year. I would have to say Zele. Zele from Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I read this book earlier this year and I did a reading vlog on it. I'll also leave that one linked down below. But I loved how bold she was, how loyal she is to her people, and how willing she is to do whatever is necessary to protect those that she loves. So I would have to say Zayla is probably my new favorite character, and I can't wait to read book 2. I don't know when I'll get to it. There's so many books I need to read, but I really enjoyed Zayla's character, and I can't wait to follow her as she completes her journey. I know that book 3 comes out this year, so I will be getting that one. I just don't know when I'll be able to finish this series. Okay, question number 10 is a book that made you cry. Not many books have made me cry this year, but I've already mentioned both of them. So the first book that made me cry was The Reformatory by Tanana Redu. This book is hard to read. It is an emotional roller coaster. The payoff in the end is so well worth it. But I shed real physical tears while reading this book. Then the other book that made me cry, like I've already mentioned, is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. I also cried real tears with this book as well. I remember after reading this book, we also took my boys to go see a movie. And my husband was just looking at me like, "Are you okay?" And I was just like, "No, I'm not. I'm not okay," because I just finished this book and I'm crying. I finished it like in the car, I want to say, on the way to the movie theater. Like in the parking lot before we walked into the movie theater is when I finished this book, and I was like an emotional wreck. And he was really just side-eyeing me like, "Do you need a second?" You need several seconds with this book, okay? Number 11, a book that made you happy. I've realized that a lot of the books that I read tend to be emotional reads, or like darker or heavier themed books. And typically the lighter themed books I always read are romances, and that's kind of like what lifts my spirits before I get into my next dark heavy book. So I would say The Kids Countdown is a book that made me happy. We are following Amiri and Vincent. Well, technically we're only following Amiri because we only get one point of view. But Amiri is a party planner, and she's reeling from a breakup, and she runs into Vincent at a coffee shop. They get together and start to date, and I don't want to give too much of this book away, but I will say that this romance was just really sweet and really cute. Vincent is an astronaut, and that made me really happy because I've never read a book where the main character had such a cool job, and the fact that he's a black man with such an amazing job, and the fact that this is just like a really soft romance with the HEA. It's like, how can you not be happy after reading this book? So yeah, highly recommend. I also follow the author on Instagram, and she announced that she's working on book 2. And in book 2, we were going to be following Vincent's little sister. So that's really exciting because I can't wait to hear her story. Okay, prompt number 12 says the most beautiful book that you've bought so far this year, or one that you have received. I will say the one that I have purchased is my copy of Forged by Blood. I got this off of Pango. I absolutely love this book, mostly because of the sprayed edges. Like, the sprayed edges on this book is absolutely stunning. And then the inside, the end pages, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We have this, there is a love triangle in this book, so we get both of the love interests on the front and back of the end pages. And then the book itself, like just the naked book without the dust jacket, is stunning. Gold foil, the tie-dye effects, like this is just a stunning book. And then the dust jacket is reversible, and I had no clue. I didn't even realize that. Y'all can't tell me that this is not the most stunning book. That is literally the most stunning book that I own. She is indeed a cover girl. Like, get into this character. This character art, it's stunning. It is literally the most beautiful book that I own. So question number 13 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Honestly, there are too many books that I really want to get to by the end of the year. So far this year, I've only read 30 books. And compared to how much I've read last year, I'm like going to be reading a lot less books this year. And I know it's because I've started to make content, and filming that content, editing that content takes a lot of my time. So I think I'm okay with reading less, but because I realize I'm going to be reading like significantly less books this year, I want to make sure that the second half of my year is filled with really good books. Last year I read over 100 books. This year, if I stay the course, I'm probably gonna hit like 60 books. And that's, you know, not foreseeing like any slumps that could come up. So there are just so many books that I really want to get to, but some books that are like at the top of my list is Do What Godmother Says by Ella Stratton. This is a new release. I really want to get to this book. I'm really trying to pick books that I think I will love. So, because I need another 5-star. I feel like it's been quite a while since I've given a book a 5-star, since I had like that 5-star feeling, and I need another one. But I also really want to read Dragon Fruit. I don't necessarily know, I don't necessarily predict that this will be a 5-star, but I do know that it's not like anything that I've ever read before, and I'm needing that right about now. So I really want to get to this one. The Blueprint by Ray Gianna Rashad is a book that I am predicting to be a 5-star for me, so I really want to get to this one. And last, The Dangerous Ones by Lauren Blackwood. This is also another book that I'm predicting to be a 5-star. This is a historical fantasy with vampires in it. I've never read any book with vampires, so I'm excited for this one to be my first one, and I'm hoping that it's going to be a 5-star. Alright y'all, those are all the questions for the Mid-Year Book Freakout Tag. I'm so excited that I finally got to do this video for my channel. I used to watch, and I still watch, a lot of booktube content, but I didn't start actually making content or creating this channel until this year. So I'm excited that I finally got to do it here for Kayla's Bookish Vibes. I hope you really enjoyed it. I'm going to leave all of the questions in the description box in case you want to do this tag for your channel. If you made it to the end of today's video, thank you so much for staying till the end. That really helps my channel out when you watch my entire video. Please leave this comment to let me know that you stayed till the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And please share this video with someone that you know enjoys bookish content. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.